I pulled into our driveway after 6 months at sea, my heart racing with excitement. The first thing I always looked for when coming home was Grandpa Miguel's 1987 Navy staff car sitting in its usual spot next to the garage. That beautiful dark blue sedan with its pristine chrome bumpers and military precision had been waiting for me through every deployment, every leave, every homecoming. Grandpa had promised it would be mine when I finished my first tour of duty. But the driveway was empty. I sat in my rental car for a full minute, staring at the vacant space where the car should have been. Maybe Dad moved it to the garage for safekeeping while I was gone. That had to be it. I grabbed my duffel bag and practically ran to the front door, keys jingling as I fumbled with the lock. "Dad, I'm home," I called out, dropping my bag in the entryway. The house smelled like Mom's cooking, but something felt off. Too quiet, too tense. Dad emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. His face looked tired, older somehow, and he wouldn't meet my eyes. "Elena, you're back early. Where's Grandpa's car?" The words tumbled out before I could even say hello properly. "It's not in the driveway." Dad's shoulders sagged. He tossed the towel onto the counter and finally looked at me. "We need to talk." My stomach dropped. "What do you mean we need to talk? Where is it?" "Sit down, Mia." "I don't want to sit down. I want to know where my grandfather's car is." My voice was getting louder, but I couldn't help it. Something was very wrong. Dad ran his hand through his graying hair. "I sold it." The words hit me like a physical blow. "You what?" "I sold the car, Elena. We needed the money." I felt the room spinning around me. "You sold Grandpa's car? The car he promised me? The car he drove for 25 years in the Navy? You sold it?" Gabriella needed money for her wedding. The venue, the dress, the catering, it all cost more than we expected. We got a good price for it, $120,000. I couldn't breathe. "You sold my inheritance for Gabriella's wedding?" It's just a car, Elena." "Just a car?" I was shouting now. That car was Grandpa Miguel's pride and joy. He drove it to every base, every assignment, every important moment of his military career. He promised it to me. "Your sister needed the money more than you needed an old car." An old car? Tears were streaming down my face. That car was his legacy. It was supposed to be mine. He told me stories about every scratch, every mile, every memory in that car. Dad's face hardened. "Gabriella is getting married. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You can buy another car." "I can't buy another car with 25 years of Grandpa's memories in it. I can't buy another car that he personally maintained and cared for like it was family." My hands were shaking. "How could you do this without even asking me?" "You were deployed." "We couldn't wait." "The wedding isn't for 3 months. You could have waited 3 months." "The venue required full payment upfront." I stared at my father, this man who raised me, who taught me about honor and keeping promises. "Grandpa made me promise to take care of that car. He said it would be mine when I proved myself in the Navy. I just finished my first deployment. I proved myself." "Elena, you need to get over this. It's done." "Get over this?" I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want me to get over the fact that you sold the most important thing my grandfather ever gave me? You want me to get over the fact that you broke his promise? Your grandfather is dead, Elena. He doesn't care about the car anymore." That was it. That was the moment something broke inside me. He may be dead, but his promises aren't. His love isn't. That car was the last piece of him I had left. I turned and walked toward the door, grabbing my duffel bag. "Where are you going?" "Anywhere but here." I paused at the door, my hand on the handle. I hope Gabriella's wedding was worth destroying Grandpa's legacy. I slammed the door behind me and sat in my rental car, sobbing. 25 years of Grandpa's Navy service, gone. All those stories he told me about driving that car from base to base, all those promises about it being mine someday, all those hours we spent together polishing every inch of it until it gleamed like new. Gone, sold, for a wedding. I had never felt so betrayed in my entire life. I drove aimlessly through town, my tears finally slowing as memories of Grandpa Miguel flooded back. I couldn't stop thinking about the first time he showed me that car. I was 8 years old, and he had just retired from the Navy after 25 years of service. "Come here, little sailor." He had called to me that sunny Saturday morning. I ran to the driveway where he stood next to the most beautiful car I had ever seen. The dark blue paint sparkled in the sunlight, and every piece of chrome gleamed like a mirror. "This is my staff car, Elena," he said, his weathered hands gently touching the hood. I drove this beauty to every base the Navy sent me to. From Norfolk to San Diego, from Pearl Harbor to Pensacola. She's been my faithful companion through it all. I remember running my small fingers along the smooth paint. "Why is it so shiny, Grandpa?" He chuckled, that warm laugh that always made me feel safe. "Because a sailor's car reflects his character, mija. If you take care of your equipment takes care of you. That's Navy wisdom." Every weekend after that, Grandpa would teach me how to properly care for the car. He showed me how to wash it without scratching the paint, how to apply wax in small circles, how to clean the chrome until it sparkled. But more than that, he told me stories. "See this little dent in the bumper?" he would say, pointing to a barely visible mark. "That happened in 1978 when I was stationed in Norfolk. A young sailor backed into me in the parking lot. He was so scared, thought he'd be in huge trouble, but I told him accidents happen and we fixed it together. That boy learned more about responsibility from fixing that dent than any punishment could have taught him." Or he would point to the steering wheel. "I gripped this wheel during the longest drive of my life." 1983, driving from California to Florida when your grandmother was sick. Drove straight through, 36 hours, because family comes first. This car never let me down. As I got older, the stories became deeper, more meaningful. When I turned 16 and started thinking about my future, Grandpa sat me down in the driver's seat of that car. "Elena, you have something special inside you," he said, his eyes serious. "You have the heart of a sailor. I see it in how you stand up for what's right, how you help others, how you never give up when things get tough." "How do you know, Grandpa?" "Because you're just like me at your age, and just like your great-grandfather who served in World War II. Military service runs in our blood. Mija, it's about honor, duty, and protecting the people you love." That was the day he first mentioned that the car would be mine. When you finish your first tour of duty, when you prove to yourself and the world that you have what it takes to serve your country, this car will be yours. It will be my way of passing on our family's legacy of service. I remember how my heart swelled with pride and determination. From that moment, every decision I made was with that promise in mind. I studied harder in school, stayed out of trouble, and eventually enlisted in the Navy just like he had. During my basic training, I would call Grandpa every week. He would always end our conversations the same way. "The car is waiting for you, little sailor. She's ready for her next chapter of service." When Grandpa got sick during my second year of service, I took emergency leave to be with him. Even in the hospital, weak and tired, he made me promise to take care of the car. "It's not just metal and paint, Elena," he whispered, holding my hand. "It's 25 years of my life, my service, my dedication. Every mile on that odometer represents a day I served my country. When you drive it, you'll be carrying that legacy forward." He passed away 3 months before my deployment ended. I couldn't even come home for the funeral because we were in the middle of a critical mission, but I knew he understood. Duty first, just like he taught me. Now, sitting in this rental car, I realized that losing his car felt like losing him all over again. It was the last tangible connection I had to the man who shaped who I became. I couldn't stay away from home forever. After driving around for 2 hours, I finally returned to face the music. The house was buzzing with activity when I walked in. Mom was on the phone discussing flower arrangements, and I could hear Gabriella's voice coming from the living room. "Elena!" Mom covered the phone with her hand. "Where did you go? Your sister wants to talk to you about being in the wedding party." I walked into the living room where Gabriella sat, surrounded by wedding magazines, fabric samples, and her laptop open to what looked like a catering website. She looked up at me with that bright smile she always wore when she wanted something. "There's my little sister. I heard you're upset about Grandpa's old car, but wait until you hear about the wedding plans. It's going to be absolutely magical." Magical? I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. "You mean the magical wedding that cost Grandpa's legacy?" Her smile faltered slightly. "Elena, don't be dramatic. It was just a car." "Just a car?" I felt that familiar anger rising again. Gabriella, that car meant everything to Grandpa. He promised it to me. Well, Grandpa isn't here anymore, is he? She turned back to her magazines. Besides, you're never around anyway. What would you do with an old car while you're deployed all the time? I would have treasured it. I would have taken care of it, just like he taught me. Dad walked in, clearly hoping to end this conversation. Girls, let's not fight about this anymore. What's done is done. No, Dad, what's done is wrong. I turned to face both of them. That car was promised to me. Grandpa spent years telling me it would be mine when I finished my first deployment. You had no right to sell it. Gabriella stood up, her voice getting sharper. I had every right to ask for help with my wedding. This is the most important day of my life, Elena. A day that only happens once. And that car was the most important thing Grandpa ever gave me. Something that was supposed to last forever. You're being selfish, she snapped. I needed that money. Do you know how much a decent wedding costs these days? The venue alone was $60,000. $60,000 for one day, Gabriella. That car represented 25 years of Grandpa's service. Mom came in, having finished her phone call. Elena, honey, try to understand. Your sister's wedding is important to the whole family. We all had to make sacrifices. Sacrifices? I stared at her in disbelief. What sacrifices did any of you make? You sacrificed something that belonged to me. Dad's face was getting red. That car didn't belong to you yet, Elena. It was still mine to do with as I needed. Legally, maybe. But morally? Grandpa made a promise, and you broke it. Your grandfather made a lot of promises, Dad said coldly. He also promised to help pay for both of his granddaughters' weddings, but he died before he could do that, didn't he? The room went silent. I felt like he had slapped me. So, you decided to keep his promise to Gabriella by breaking his promise to me? Gabriella crossed her arms. Elena, you'll have other cars. I'll only have one wedding. And I'll only have one grandfather who served his country for 25 years and left me something meaningful to remember him by. You have plenty of memories, Mom said gently. You don't need a car for that. You don't understand. I was fighting back tears again. That car wasn't just a memory, it was a connection. Every time I sat in it, every time I touched the steering wheel he held for all those years, I felt close to him. I felt like I was part of something bigger than myself. You're part of this family, Dad said, and this family needed that money. This family needed to honor Grandpa's wishes. Gabriella threw down her magazine. Fine, Elena, be mad, but my wedding is in 3 months, and it's going to be perfect, with or without your support. I looked around at my family, these people who were supposed to love and protect me, who were supposed to understand what that car meant. Instead, they looked at me like I was the unreasonable one. I need some air, I said, heading for the door again. Elena, wait. Mom called after me, but I was already gone. The next morning, I woke up in a cheap motel room with a new determination. I couldn't change what my family had done, but maybe I could fix it. If I could find whoever bought the car and explain the situation, maybe they would sell it back to me. I had some savings from my deployment, and I was willing to pay whatever it took. I drove straight to the courthouse to look up the bill of sale. Public records showed that Dad had sold the car to Henderson Classic Auto Dealership on Maple Street. My heart raced as I pulled into their parking lot. The dealership specialized in vintage and classic cars, with dozens of beautiful vehicles gleaming in the afternoon sun. A bell chimed as I walked through the glass doors. The showroom was immaculate, filled with restored classics from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Behind the counter stood an elderly man with kind eyes and graying hair, wearing a crisp white shirt and navy tie. Good afternoon, miss. I'm Robert Thompson, owner of Henderson Classic Auto. How can I help you today? Mr. Thompson, I'm Elena Rodriguez. My father sold you a 1987 Navy staff car about a week ago. Dark blue sedan, pristine condition. I was wondering if it's still available. His face lit up with recognition. Ah, yes. Beautiful vehicle. Absolutely immaculate condition. Your father mentioned it belonged to a Navy veteran. My grandfather, Miguel Rodriguez, he served 25 years and drove that car throughout his entire career. Mr. Thompson's expression softened. Miguel Rodriguez? Wait a minute. Tall man, always wore his navy pin on his jacket? Used to bring that car in for service every 6 months like clockwork? My heart jumped. You knew my grandfather? Knew him? Miguel was one of my most loyal customers for over 15 years. That man treated that car like it was made of gold. Never missed a service appointment, always paid in cash, and always had a story to tell about his Navy days. Tears started forming in my eyes. That sounds like Grandpa. He used to talk about his granddaughter who was following in his footsteps, said she was going to inherit that car someday. That must be you. Yes, sir. That's why I'm here. I just returned from my first deployment, and I found out my father sold it while I was gone. I was hoping I could buy it back from you. Mr. Thompson's face fell. Oh, my dear, I'm so sorry, but that car sold the very next day. I had 3 people interested in it before your father even finished the paperwork. My heart sank. Do you know who bought it? A private collector from Phoenix. He specializes in government and military vehicles, paid full asking price without even negotiating. Could you give me his contact information? Maybe I could explain the situation. Mr. Thompson shook his head sadly. I'm afraid I can't share customer information. Privacy policies, you understand. But even if I could, I doubt it would help. This particular collector never sells anything. He's been building his collection for 30 years. I felt the last of my hope draining away. So it's really gone. I'm afraid so. But Elena, if I may say something, your grandfather talked about you constantly. He was so proud of your service, so excited about passing that car on to you. He said you understood what it meant to serve something bigger than yourself. The car was supposed to be how he passed on that legacy. Mr. Thompson walked around the counter and placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. Honey, that car was just metal and paint. The real legacy your grandfather left you is already inside you. It's in your character, your service, your dedication to honor and duty. No one can sell that. I knew he meant well, but his words felt hollow. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. I appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. Of course. And Elena, your grandfather would be incredibly proud of the woman you've become. I could see it in his eyes every time he talked about you. I walked back to my rental car feeling completely defeated. The collector in Phoenix would never sell. Even if he would, I probably couldn't afford what he'd want for it. Grandpa's car was gone forever, along with 25 years of memories and the promise that had motivated me through my entire military career. I sat in the parking lot for a long time, watching other customers browse the classic cars, wondering if any of them understood the stories and memories that came with each vehicle. Some things, once lost, can never be replaced. 3 days passed in a blur of anger, sadness, and sleepless nights. I had moved back home, but the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Gabriella continued planning her wedding as if nothing had happened, while Dad avoided me completely. Mom tried to play peacemaker, but I wasn't ready to forgive anyone yet. I was sitting on the back porch, staring at the empty spot where Grandpa's car used to be parked, when my phone rang. The caller ID showed a number I didn't recognize with a local area code. Hello? Is this Elena Rodriguez? The voice belonged to an older woman with a slight accent. Yes, this is Elena. Miss Rodriguez, this is Mrs. Chen from Henderson Classic Auto Dealership. I'm the service manager here. Mr. Thompson asked me to call you. My heart started beating faster. Is everything okay? Well, that depends on how you look at it. We have a situation here that requires your immediate attention. It's about your grandfather's car. I sat up straight. What about it? I thought it was sold to a collector in Phoenix. It was, but the car is back here at our dealership. The buyer returned it this morning, and during our routine inspection, we discovered something that changes everything. What do you mean? What did you discover? Mrs. Chen's voice became more serious. Miss Rodriguez, I can't explain this over the phone. You need to come to the dealership right now. There's something your grandfather left inside that car, something that was meant specifically for you. My hands started shaking. What are you talking about? My family cleaned out that car before they sold it. They didn't find everything. Your grandfather was very clever about where he hid things. Can you come down here immediately? This is extremely important. I don't understand. Why did the collector return the car? That's part of what we need to discuss in person. Miss Rodriguez, I've been working with classic cars for 25 years, and I've never seen anything like this. Your grandfather left you something that your family never knew existed. My mind was racing. Mrs. Chen, you're scaring me. What exactly did you find? I can't say more over the phone, but I will tell you this. Your grandfather was a very wise man, and he made sure that his real gift to you couldn't be accidentally sold or given away. I was already grabbing my keys. I'm on my way. How long will you be there? We'll wait for you. Ask for me specifically when you arrive. And Miss Rodriguez, you might want to bring some tissues. The line went dead, leaving me staring at my phone in confusion and growing excitement. What could Grandpa have possibly hidden in that car that my family missed, and why would the collector return it? I rushed inside to grab my purse, my heart pounding with a mixture of hope and anxiety. Mom was in the kitchen preparing dinner. Elena, where are you going in such a hurry? The dealership called. They found something in Grandpa's car. Mom looked confused. What do you mean? We cleaned out that car thoroughly before your father sold it. Apparently not thoroughly enough. I was halfway to the door when Mom called after me. Elena, don't get your hopes up too much. It's probably just some old papers or something. But something in Mrs. Chen's voice told me it was much more than that. The way she said Grandpa was very clever and that he'd made sure his real gift couldn't be accidentally sold, it sounded like he had planned for exactly this situation. As I drove toward the dealership, my mind raced with possibilities. What could Grandpa have hidden that was so important? And why would a collector who never sold anything return a car he just bought? The traffic seemed to crawl as I made my way across town. Every red light felt like an eternity. Whatever Grandpa had left for me, whatever secret he'd hidden in that car, I was about to find out. For the first time in days, I felt a spark of hope. Maybe this nightmare wasn't over yet. Maybe Grandpa had found a way to keep his promise after all. I pressed harder on the accelerator, desperate to reach the dealership and discover what my grandfather had been planning all along. I practically ran into Henderson Classic Auto, my heart hammering against my ribs. The showroom was quieter than before, with only a few customers browsing the vintage cars. I spotted Mr. Thompson behind the counter and rushed over to him. Mr. Thompson, I'm here about the phone call. Mrs. Chen said you found something in my grandfather's car? His face broke into a knowing smile. Elena, yes, Mrs. Chen is waiting for you in the service bay. This is quite remarkable, really. In all my years in this business, I've never seen anything quite like what your grandfather did. He led me through a door marked Authorized Personnel Only, into the service area. The familiar dark blue sedan sat in the center bay, under bright fluorescent lights. Seeing it again made my chest tight with emotion. A petite Asian woman in coveralls approached us, wiping her hands on a rag. You must be Elena. I'm Mrs. Chen. Your grandfather was an extraordinary man. What did you find? Why is the car back here? Mrs. Chen gestured toward the car. The collector who bought it brought it back this morning. He said something felt wrong about the purchase after he got it home. Apparently, he did some research and learned about your grandfather's military service and his promise to you. He felt terrible about the situation and returned the car, refusing any refund. My eyes widened. He just gave it back? Some people still believe in doing the right thing, Mr. Thompson said softly, but that's not why we called you. Mrs. Chen walked to the driver's side and opened the door. When we were doing our standard inspection, I noticed something odd about the dashboard. There was a slight gap that shouldn't have been there. She pointed to an area near the glove compartment. Your grandfather had installed a hidden compartment. She pressed something, and a section of the dashboard slid away, revealing a space I never knew existed. Inside was a waterproof metal case, about the size of a shoebox. We didn't open it, Mrs. Chen said. It has your name engraved on the top. With trembling hands, I reached for the case. Sure enough, for Elena Rodriguez, my little sailor, was etched into the metal in Grandpa's careful handwriting. The case was heavier than I expected. Go ahead, Mr. Thompson encouraged. Open it. I sat in the driver's seat, the same seat where Grandpa had told me so many stories, and carefully opened the case. Inside, wrapped in protective plastic, were items I had never seen before. First, I pulled out a thick manila envelope labeled Elena's Future. Inside were official documents, bank statements, investment records, and legal papers. My hands shook as I read the numbers. Grandpa had been secretly building a military pension fund in my name for over 10 years. The current balance was over $300,000. "Oh my God," I whispered. Beneath the financial documents were Grandpa's military medals, medals I had never seen him wear or display. His Purple Heart, his Navy Achievement Medal, his Good Conduct Medal, and others I didn't recognize. Each was carefully preserved and labeled with the date and reason he received it. At the bottom of the case was a sealed letter with my name on it. I opened it with shaking fingers and began to read Grandpa's familiar handwriting. "My dearest Elena, if you are reading this, then my plan worked perfectly. I knew there was a chance this car might be sold before you could claim it, so I made sure my real gift to you would be safe no matter what happened. The money in this account is yours, earned through careful saving and investing over many years. But more important than the money are the medals and this letter. I never displayed these medals because I didn't serve for recognition. I served for love of country and family. Elena, you have already proven yourself to be the sailor I always knew you could be. The car was never the real inheritance, it was just the delivery method. Your true inheritance is the knowledge that you come from a family of honor, courage, and service. Use this money wisely. Follow your heart, serve others, and remember that the greatest treasures in life aren't things you can hold, but the love and values you carry in your heart. I am so proud of you, my little sailor. The car is yours now, but more importantly, you have earned the right to carry our family's legacy forward. With all my love and respect, Grandpa Miguel." Tears streamed down my face as I clutched the letter to my chest. I sat in that driver's seat for what felt like hours, reading Grandpa's letter over and over again. Mrs. Chen and Mr. Thompson had quietly stepped away, giving me privacy to process everything. The weight of Grandpa's true gift was overwhelming, not just the money, but the realization that he had planned for every possibility, even the one that broke my heart. When I finally composed myself enough to drive, I carefully placed everything back in the case and drove Grandpa's car home. The familiar feel of the steering wheel under my hands, the gentle hum of the engine, the way the seats seemed to fit me perfectly. It all felt like a warm embrace from beyond. I pulled into our driveway and sat there for a moment, gathering my courage. Through the living room window, I could see my family gathered around the dinner table. Gabriella was showing Mom something on her phone, probably more wedding details. Dad was reading his newspaper. Everything looked normal, but I knew I was about to change everything. I walked in carrying the metal case, and the room fell silent. Dad's newspaper crinkled as he lowered it, and Gabriella looked up from her phone with surprise. "Elena?" Mom stood up. "Is that Grandpa's car in the driveway?" "Yes, it is." I set the case on the coffee table. "We need to talk. All of us." Dad folded his newspaper completely. "How did you get the car back?" "The collector who bought it returned it to the dealership. He felt bad about the situation after he learned the story." I opened the case and pulled out Grandpa's letter. "But that's not the important part. The important part is what Grandpa left for me." I explained everything. The hidden compartment, the pension fund, the medals, the letter. As I spoke, I watched my family's faces change from confusion to amazement to something that looked like shame. When I finished, the room was completely quiet. Finally, Dad spoke. "Elena, I had no idea. Your grandfather never mentioned any of this." "That was the point, Dad. He knew that if anyone knew about the money, it might disappear just like the car almost did. He wanted to make sure I got what he intended for me." Gabriella's voice was small. "How much money?" "Enough that you could have had your dream wedding without selling the car." The silence stretched on. Mom was the first to speak. "Elena, we owe you an apology." "A huge apology." "You do." "But I've been thinking about what Grandpa wrote in his letter, about the greatest treasures being the love and values we carry in our hearts." I looked around at my family. I'm still hurt about what happened. It's going to take time for me to fully forgive. But I understand why you did it. I pulled out the bank documents. "Gabriella, your wedding is in 3 months. I want to pay for it." Her eyes went wide. "Elena, no, I can't let you do that." "Yes, you can." Because that's what family does. We take care of each other even when we mess up. I looked at Dad. But I have conditions. Dad nodded. Name them. First, no one ever touches Grandpa's car again without my permission. It stays with me, and when I'm deployed, it stays in our garage exactly where it belongs. Agreed, Dad said immediately. Second, I want to use part of this money to start a scholarship fund for children of military families, something that honors Grandpa's memory and helps other people. Mom wiped tears from her eyes. That's beautiful, Elena. And third, I want us to be a real family again. No more secrets, no more broken promises, no more choosing favorites. Gabriella stood up and walked over to me. Elena, I'm so sorry. I was selfish and thoughtless, and I almost cost you something irreplaceable. She hugged me, and for the first time in days, it felt genuine. Dad joined us. Your grandfather would be proud of how you're handling this. You're showing more maturity and grace than any of us deserve. As we stood there in a family hug, I felt Grandpa's presence somehow. He had known this would happen. He had planned not just for me to get my inheritance, but for our family to learn something important about love, forgiveness, and what really matters. The car was back where it belonged. The money would help secure my future and help others. But most importantly, I had learned that the greatest legacy isn't what someone leaves you, it's what you choose to do with it. Grandpa's real gift wasn't the car or the money, it was teaching me that true honor means lifting others up, even when they've let you down.